America's Seed Fund, are one of the earliest sources of early stage capital for technology commercialization in the United States. These programs allow US owned and operated small businesses to engage in federally supported research and development that has strong potential for commercialization. The SBIR and STTR programs are congressionally mandated, such that any federal agency that has a research and development budget that's over $100 million has to set aside 3.2% of that budget for small businesses to engage in research and development with potential for commercialization. Additionally, any agency with a budget over $1 billion for research and development has to set aside an additional 4.5% for to support collaborations between research and development between small businesses and U.S. research institutions. The goals of the SBIR program are to meet the federal research and development needs, to increase private sector commercialization of innovations derived from federal research and development funding, to stimulate technological innovation. We all know that small businesses are the innovators. And to foster and encourage participation in innovation and entrepreneurship by women and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. An additional goal of the STTR program specifically is to foster technology transfer through cooperative research and development between small businesses and research institutions. The SBIR and STTR programs are generally structured into 3 phases. The goal of phase 1 is generally to support feasibility and proof of concept work. And these awards can range between 6 months and a year, depending on the agency, and can provide a budget between $50,000 and $250,000. Phase 2 generally supports full research and development, and these awards are generally for 24 months or more and can range from $500,000 to $1.5 million, depending on the agency. Finally, the objective of phase 3 of the SBIR program is for small businesses to pursue commercialization objectives resulting from any of the phase 1 and phase 2 research and development activities. It's important to note that phase 3 is not funded through SBIR funding. I will go into the details of those numbers for the NOAA SBIR program later on. So there are 11 federal agencies with SBIR programs and 5 additionally with STTR programs that are shown in the darker blue. This amounts to $3.2 billion in SBIR funding and over $450 million in STTR funding through over 5,000 new awards every year. And the Small Business Administration acts as a coordinating agency, but does not provide any awards themselves. So what is a small business? How can you get your hands on some of that 3.2 plus $450 million? In order to be eligible for the small business program, you have to qualify as a small business. And it's important to note that the small business is always the awardee, whether you're applying for the SBIR or the STTR program. So you need to be an organized for-profit U.S. business with 500 or fewer employees, including affiliates. The work proposed must be done in the United States with few exceptions, and you have to fit into one of those ownership paradigms laid out on the slide there. Generally, the SBIR and the STTR programs are very similar in many ways, except for these very important differences. First, with the STTR program, there is a requirement to partner with a nonprofit research institution. With the SBIR program, you are allowed to partner with a nonprofit research institution, but it's not a required part of the program. Secondly, with the SBIR program, the PI has to be greater than 50% employed by the small business. The PI can be employed by either the small business or the research institution with the STTR program. And that, with the SBIR program, does preclude full-time employment at another organization. So you can't be fully employed by another organization as a PI of the small business on the award. Thirdly, the STTR program requires that at least 40% of the work be done by the small business and at least 30% by the research institution partner. And the additional 30% can be done by some combination of those or also subcontracted out. With the STTR program, you can subcontract up to 33% of the work in phase 1 and 50% in phase 2, but that is not required. Finally, with the SBIR program, some agencies do allow majority VC ownership of the small business. It's not allowed with the STTR program. Just to note, though, that NOAA does not allow VC ownership with our SBIR program. So there's a lot of reasons why you might be interested in seeking SBIR and STTR funding. It does provide seed funding for innovative technology development. There is no repayment required, so it's not a loan. So this is fully non-dilutive capital. In addition, small businesses do retain the intellectual property rights. So all data, including your proposals and any reports that are required as part of the process, are protected for 20 years under the policy and mandate. Additionally, being awarded an SBIR or STTR award can provide recognition and verification and visibility for your technology, and you can use that to leverage it as leverage to attract other funding and collaboration, for example, venture capital or strategic partnerships. Additionally, being an SBIR awardee can lead to sole source acquisition of the resulting technology at any of the 11 participating federal agencies. So now I'm going to go into some of the specifics of the NOAA SBIR program, and to reiterate from previously, NOAA does not have an STTR program.
Genevieve, one thing I just wanted to just quickly check, because at the beginning I said I'm not going to record, but it does look like some people were having some trouble trying to log in via Eventbrite. So I just resent things to Zoom notifications to everybody. Hopefully some more people will be able to join just directly via their Zoom link. So I did go ahead and start hitting record, so that certainly from here on and just a little bit previously, we will I'll be able to send out a recording for that, if that's all right with you.
Noted. That's fine. Yep.
Thanks so much.
Yep. All right, so NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and NOAA's mission, which is founded in science, service, and stewardship, is to understand and predict changes in climate, weather, oceans, and coasts, to share that knowledge and information with others, and to conserve and manage coastal and marine ecosystems and resources. NOAA divides its mission into 10 different mission areas, and those are weather, climate, oceans and coasts, fisheries, satellites, research, marine and aviation, charting, sanctuaries, and education. Those 10 mission areas are covered by 6 NOAA offices. Those are Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, the National Weather Service, National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, National Ocean Service, and the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations. NOAA also has a number of research labs, which are part of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, that are spread across the country, and they include, for example, the Earth Systems Research Lab in Boulder, Colorado, Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory, which is in Seattle, Washington, and Newport, Oregon, and the National Severe Storms Laboratory in Norman, Oklahoma, among a number of other labs. There's a lot of really cool research and programming that takes place across NOAA, and our website is a great place to learn a little bit more about all of the exciting things that we have going on. So what our SBIR program is looking for at NOAA are proposals for highly innovative products and services with strong commercial potential that fit within the NOAA mission areas. Here I'm providing an overview of the NOAA SBIR program details. For fiscal year 22, we have an estimated budget of $11 million, which we administer through a grant mechanism. We have one solicitation per phase per year. Historically, our applications open in the fall and our proposals are due in the late winter. And we take in applications through grants.gov. For phase 1, we are looking for new ideas that are ready for feasibility or proof of concept testing. Our phase 1 awards are 6-month awards and for up to $150,000. We typically award between 15 and 30 awards per year. In fiscal year 20, our success rate was about 23%. I will say that due to some changes we made to the topic areas, we had significantly more applications in fiscal year 21, and our success rate was closer to 10%. We're hoping with some changes we've implemented this year that we'll get that back up a little bit closer to that 20%. Our phase 2 competition is a limited competition for a phase 1 awardees only. These awards support full research and development of the technology for up to 24 months and $500,000. Because this is a limited competition and we award between 10 and 15 awards per year, the success rate is higher and was about 65% in fiscal year 20. Again, the goal for phase 3 is to pursue commercialization objectives from phase 1 and phase 2 activities. And phase 3 is not funded through SBIR funding, but we do have a number of awardees that eventually are acquired into NOAA through phase 3 funding. Just a little bit of background information. In 2019, NOAA switched from contracts to grants as our funding mechanism, and it can have some important implications in what your experience of the award is as a small business. So with grants, payment is defined by an annual budget period and awarded in advance, and it's not invoiced like it usually is with contracts. This can be important for small businesses in particular because it can have implications for your financial position and outlook. Additionally, with the use of grants as our mechanism now, we are looking for investigator-initiated proposals. So the topic areas that we're putting forth are going to be more broad, and we're looking for your innovative ideas within the NOAA mission space, rather than as it tends to be with a contract, which looks to address problems and bring technologies into NOAA, and tends to use more narrow and specific NOAA-defined subtopics. Also, with grants, the goal is a commercializable product or service rather than a required deliverable to NOAA. And this is really key because with grants, NOAA is not necessarily going to be the customer of your product or service. And so they need to be developed and thought through with commercial markets in mind. One of the reasons that we moved from contracts to grants is because a lot of our awardees were going through the process thinking that NOAA was going to be the customer of their technology in the end, and that's not necessarily the case. We want to make sure that there's a broader commercial market for whatever technology you're proposing. Hot off the presses, the NOAA fiscal year 21 phase 1 SBIR solicitation was released on November 15th. So I want to highlight some of the key dates and deadlines here. So the solicitation opened 2 weeks ago, November 15th. We do have a required letter of intent this year, and the due date for the letter of intent is December 13th. So we have about 2 more weeks to get those letters of intent in. The letter of intent, and I will go into a little bit more details about it, but it's not extensive, so there's certainly plenty of time for you to get those in if you're interested in submitting this year. The current application closing date is February 18th, 2022. We will go through proposal evaluations between February and April, make our award selections in May, and have a tentative award start date currently of August 1st of 2022. So to go into a little bit more detail about this required letter of intent, which again, deadline is December 13th, the letter of intent can be submitted electronically through the form found on our website. And I will share these slides with Anne so you have the link to them. Also, you can just Google NOAA SBIR and we're very easy to find.
Yeah, it is. It actually, guys, I'm putting a few things in the chat right now. So I actually have that page up. I'll push that link out to you as well. So, but you'll get a copy of these slides and watch the chat because I'll throw a few relevant links your way during the presentation.
Also, if you want to find it in the more traditional manner, it's also linked in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which is on grants.gov currently as well. So there's lots of opportunities to find that letter of intent link. So what we are asking for you with the letter of intent is just some basic information about your small business. Additionally, we ask that you select or identify which of the NOAA SBIR topic areas you're proposing to submit within, and I will go into some of the details about those topic areas in this presentation as well. We also want the title of your project as well as a technical abstract that describes the technology and application in sufficient detail so that we are able to evaluate the responsiveness to NOAA topics and priorities. And finally, just a brief description of the commercial potential and the application for the proposed technology. Your abstract should not be more than 500 words, and it needs to provide sufficient technical depth so that we would be able to assign scientific reviewers using that information, but it shouldn't really contain any proprietary information or anything like that. So not huge levels of depth with that. We will provide feedback about whether your application is likely to be non-responsive to the notice of funding opportunity, and we will provide that within 4 weeks of the deadline, which would be by January 10th, 2022. And again, as I mentioned, we will use that technical abstract on our end to help us assign scientific experts in advance to help our review process move a little bit more efficiently as well. All right, so now getting into what kind of ideas we're looking for this year with the NOAA SBIR solicitation. With our phase 1 topics, we have moved towards aligning with the NOAA Next Generation Strategic Plan. And again, like I said, we are putting forward really high level, broad topics, and we really just want your innovative ideas within the NOAA mission space. So the goals as laid out in the Next Generation Strategic Plan are climate adaptation and mitigation, weather-ready nation, healthy oceans, and resilient coastal communities and economies. So proposals this year will need to align with one of those topics within these categories. And there's more details about what we're looking for in those areas in the Notice of Funding Opportunity on grants.gov, as well as on our website. We also have past requests for proposals and previously funded projects with abstracts available on our website as well if you want to see what kind of ideas we've funded in the past. So the objectives under the climate adaptation and mitigation subtopic are improved scientific understanding of the changing climate system, assessments of current and future states of the climate system that identify potential impacts and inform decisions, mitigation and adaptation efforts supported by sustained, reliable, and timely climate services, and a climate literate public that understands its vulnerabilities to a changing climate and makes informed decisions. Whoops. Sorry, I moved the mouse. Okay, under the weather ready nation topic, we're looking for solutions or innovative ideas that would lead to reduced loss of property, life, or disruption from high impact weather events, improve freshwater resource management, improve transportation efficiency and safety as related to weather, healthy people and communities due to improved air and water quality services, and a more productive and efficient economy through environmentally relevant information to key sectors of the US economy. Under the healthy oceans subtopic, the objectives are improved understanding of ecosystems to informed resource management and decisions, recovered and healthy marine and coastal species, healthy habitats that sustain resilient and thriving marine resources and communities, sustainable fisheries and safe seafood for healthy populations and vibrant communities. And finally, under the resilient coastal communities and economies, we're looking for ideas to meet the objectives of resilient coastal communities that can adapt to the impacts of and hazards of climate change, comprehensive ocean and coastal planning and management, safe, efficient, and environmentally sound marine transportation, improved coastal water quality supporting human health and coastal ecosystem services, and safe, environmentally sound Arctic access and resource management. In addition to the topic areas, NOAA gives high priority to proposals developing technologies that integrate any of the NOAA science and technology focus areas, which include uncrewed systems, data and cloud computing, artificial intelligence, citizen science, or omics. So that covers the topics this year and our priority areas. Just to touch briefly on the NOAA Phase 2 SBIR competition, as I mentioned, the Phase 2 solicitation is a limited competition for NOAA Phase 1 awardees only. The awards are for 24 months and up to $500,000. And the Phase 2 solicitation is typically released about 30 to 45 days prior to the end of the period of performance of the Phase 1 award. With this year applications opening in January and being due in March for an August start date as well. Our Phase 2 awardees do gain access to the NOAA SBIR Commercialization Assistance Program, which is free of charge. The Commercialization Assistance Program provides mentoring and training and includes dedicated industry-specific business consultants and supports the development of a strategic action plan, business plan, or a licensing or go-to-market strategy. All of this with the goal to support the transition of the SBIR developed technology into the marketplace.
So Genevieve, just as a quick, and folks, I want to make sure, because it's great that we have kind of a small team here, because definitely ping us if you have some questions, if you want to jump in and ask something. I have a question real quick about this. For the commercialization assistance, I wanted to ask you, does NOAA participate in the technical and business assistance when people are applying, or is it a sort of an either or option, which is pretty common, that if you take advantage of certain opportunities for commercialization assistance, you can take one of an agency's choice?
We currently don't provide technical and business assistance funds through our awards, so we
Okay.
provide commercialization support through our commercialization assistant program in Phase 2. Yeah.
Some folks of you, especially those folks who we worked with, may be familiar with things I'll call TABA. And that's, something that you can ask for in addition to your budget for some agencies. And it is basically in this sense, a response from the agencies to really help provide some additional support for these companies that are trying to commercialize these early stage technologies. You guys have it's no slight thing. You guys have early stage technology. It takes a longer time. So I definitely would encourage any of you to take advantage of these types of opportunities, because they really do connect you with folks who are specialized in certain areas and can help you advance that technology and get that go-to-market strategy a bit. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I wanted to conclude the formal part of the presentation with just some suggestions, tips, best practices for developing a successful application. I think the most important thing to keep in mind when you're developing your proposal is, how is your proposal going to be evaluated? So first, I want to touch on what the review criteria are and what the review process looks like at NOAA. So applications are reviewed independently by up to 3 reviewers and scored on these 5 weighted criteria. And the criteria are scientific merit and the technical approach, which is 25 points, commercial potential and application, which is another 25 points, level of innovation, which is 20 points, the relevance to the NOAA mission, which is 15 points, and finally the team and the research environment, which is another 15 points. Our final award recommendation decisions are based on score rankings, but also include consideration of things like the balance of our portfolio, diversity across participants, both geographically or by type of institution or by researchers themselves, previous award performance, and possible duplication of federally funded research, and finally, of course, what our budget is in that given year. Additionally, to cover some more basic tips for developing a successful application, as was hopefully clear from the review criteria, the 4 key components of your proposal are the science, innovation, commercialization, and your team. So NOAA is first and foremost a scientific organization. So science is the foundation of the NOAA mission and really should provide the foundation of your application. A large portion of your score is based on the scientific and technical merit of your proposal. So make sure you are clearly identifying the significance of the problem or opportunity and detailing the technical objectives of your proposal from a scientific perspective. But also be aware that our expert reviewers come from a variety of backgrounds. So try not to use language in your proposal that is overly jargony. You want to make sure that what you're writing can be understood by a general scientific audience. Another significant portion of your score is the commercial potential of your technology. So make sure you have a strong understanding and a clear description of the market opportunity, the competitive landscape, and the commercial potential of the technology you're proposing to develop. A third key component of your proposal is the innovation. So one of the fundamental goals of the SBIR program is to stimulate technological innovation. So be sure to clearly address what problem you're solving, what makes your technology innovative, and what sets it apart from the competition or what is already currently available. Finally, your team is an important component of your score. You want to make sure that we want to make sure that you have all the resources, both scientific and technically, that will be necessary to complete the work that you're proposing in your application. So building a team that has all the necessary expertise is critical, and you want to make sure that that's included in your application in advance of submission. So moving beyond those key components of your proposal, it's also essential that you read and follow all of the instructions in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. Everything you need to know about what information you need to provide and how it needs to be organized is found in that NOFO, is what we call it. It's really a bummer when applications don't move forward through the process because they failed to provide a single required document, or they didn't answer one of the really easy to answer required questions, but it happens every round. It's really a bummer when that happens. So please make sure to read all the instructions. We also recommend that you get started early, so you make sure to give yourself enough time to develop a strong application and submit as early as you are able. In addition to giving yourself time to develop your proposal, there are several registrations that have to be completed in order to submit an application. Especially important to be aware of this if you're a brand new small business, because some of those can take up to 4 to 8 weeks to complete, and some have to be renewed every year. So it's best to give yourself a buffer in case you have any obstacles, because we aren't able to accept late applications or give any extensions regardless of the circumstances. Finally, especially if you are looking at more than one SBIR program, it's essential to know that the details of that program that you're developing an application for, many of which I've addressed today, as you're preparing your application. There are a lot of differences between how agencies administer their SBIR programs, so don't assume that because you've applied to a National Science Foundation or a Department of Defense SBIR award before, that the NOAA application or the process will be the same. If you pay attention to those details, you will have a stronger application and a much better chance of being awarded.
Right. That and folks, that's one of the things, for example, just that my team that we help you with. Some of you will know that because there are 11 different agencies and then multiple components. If you're talking about NIH or DoD, several components underneath them, right? That there's a lot to do, but each of them are different. Sometimes people will talk to me. I'm like, hey, give me a minute. Let me do that. But what we have the advantage of is, since we've done this before, we can kind of help you navigate that. Even if we don't immediately know the answer, we've met a couple of steps ahead just to kind of go and dissect everything a little bit for you, so that we can make sure that you're putting together the most complete and compliant proposal. Other things that we have, some resources that we have available for you are just proposal templates. It doesn't give you, it just helps you, kind of gives you a couple of steps ahead of time ahead to kind of make sure that you're putting things in the format of the fonts or the spacing, the white space, and things like that. And then also some project management templates as well, kind of checklists that you can help make sure that you're getting all of the components of your proposal together and getting them submitted in time. And I will, one last thing, Genevieve, too, I will reinforce for those of you who are new or you're just launching a company, just starting up a company, get started on some of the registrations. And again, you can ping us here to kind of clarify and bounce ideas around too, just to make sure that you're getting all of those things in place as soon as possible. Because they're not rocket science, but they're just through that.
Gotta do them.
Yeah, that nuclear flaming hoop. You just have to jump through it. So.
Thank you, Anne. And I also just want to point out too that for the letter of intent, you don't have to have your registrations complete.
Right.
That's just for submission of the full application. So don't worry about getting those done by that December 13th deadline, but definitely get started on them as soon as possible. I did go back and look at some of the NOAA SBIR awardees. We haven't had as many as I'd like to see, especially as a as a Montana native. So but I did want to highlight some of the awards. Maybe you're not sure what does the ocean have to do with Montana, but we do have a lot of great projects that have come from Montana. A couple of the companies include Residine Corporation, which is in Butte and has submitted some aquaculture, received some aquaculture awards. Montana Microbial Products in Missoula also works in the aquaculture space. And finally, Sunburst Centers, as Anne mentioned at the beginning, works in the carbon dioxide, carbon measurement and analysis, and ocean acidification.
Actually, space. And we have Jim on the line. Jim is too. So I don't know, Jim, if I totally put you on the spot there, but you want to say hi, you can tell us how SBIR helped Sunburst Centers or not. I see him listed, but he's either quiet or not paying attention at the moment. So that was totally impromptu. So
no worries. All right. So I just want to leave you with some ways you can learn more about NOAA or the NOAA SBIR program and also stay connected with the program in the future. So NOAA has developed a webinar series. It looks like Jim was muted.
Oh yeah, well I thought he could unmute him, but maybe oh no. Here, let me see if I can unmute you. It's to unmute. You're unmuted now, Jim. It's helped us a lot. Was muted. Hi, Jim.
Howdy. Yeah, I mean, like to say that the SBIR program's been a big part of our business over the last about 15 years or so. We've received 4 phase 1s, 2 phase 2s, and developed several products with that money, and it's helped us a great deal.
Glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's helpful. I mean, it's just confirming something that we've picked here anyways, but it is. The Sunburst Sensor has some really, really cool technology that can help address a lot of different things. So it's been these are important sources of early stage tech development, sources of funding that isn't necessarily always available out, by VCs. You guys are looking at technology development that requires hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop, and that's not something that's easily just done for friends and family with friends and family money. And it's often so early stage that it's not attractive enough to VCs. So this is a really important source of high tech funding.
Agreed. All right, so we have a webinar series that highlights some of our internal NOAA innovators and also some of our SBIR awardees. It's an ongoing series that features both internal and external projects. You can join a future session, so you can find out more about that on our website. And there's also an archive of the previous sessions on YouTube, which you can access at that bit.ly link, which is NOAA Innovators Series. Just keep in mind that letter case is important with bit.ly links, so make sure you're capitalizing the same letters that I capitalize if you're looking for those. Again, I'll share the slides with the links as well. You can sign up for our email list on our website to be notified also of future sessions of the NOAA Innovators series. You can also connect to the NOAA Technology Partnerships Office, which houses both the SBIR program and our internal NOAA Technology Transfer program, by following us on Twitter at NOAA Innovate. Here we share lots of important updates, including as soon as our funding opportunity announcements come out, or we also share success stories of our applicants, other events where you can engage directly with the NOAA SBIR staff, as well as resources that can help you be successful with the NOAA SBIR program. Finally, our website is a great resource for more information about the program, and you can find it at techpartnerships.noaa.gov/SBIR, or just type NOAA SBIR into your favorite search engine. There shouldn't be a lot of other results that come up with that. You can, again, like I said, sign up for our email list on our website. Also, if you'd like to connect directly with NOAA staff, myself, or the rest of my team, you can email us at noaa.sbir@noaa.gov, or my email, genevieve.lind@noaa.gov. Thank you all for joining today. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see your faces, and happy to answer any questions or discuss anything more that you're interested in learning about.
Yeah, this is an opportunity to kind of just talk directly, for any of your ideas. I will just do my whole flag of no proprietary information, guys. Although I do have kind of what is said here stays here. But if you have a question about kind of your general technology area, appropriateness for NOAA, or other things to proceed with, now's a great time to ask.
Yeah, so first, Genevieve and Ann, thank you so much for doing this family-sized presentation. This is really great. Yay. Did I miss that you're native Montana, Genevieve?
I said that at the beginning. I was born in Darby, Montana. I grew up there. I have 2 degrees from the University of Montana, and lived there until 3 years ago when I moved to the Washington, D.C. area.
I used to do the USGS bird surveys down at Sula, just south of Darby. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually grew up south of Darby, but nobody knows that either. So.
All right. Excellent. Say, when I was reading the materials, I stumbled on the description of the LOIs, and it seemed to say that some people do a brute force blast out 10 versions of the LOI, hoping something will stick. That kind of shocked me, because we put our heart and soul into these things, and it trains me to even do one.
The 10 limit was really, so we are kind of basing our process off of the Department of Energy, who also uses a letter of intent and has developed some best practices around the process. We do work with some of the larger small businesses who maybe work in more than one technology space. The intent is not to have people blast off a bunch of ideas to see what sticks. And to be completely honest with you, that's not the kind of feedback that we're going to provide in this letter of intent process. The response to the letter of intent will either be, this is not likely to be responsive to the NOAA mission, space, and priorities, or we will say, we reviewed your letter of intent. Feel free to proceed with your application. We don't want to provide too much information in that process and tell people that yes, that fits in the mission space, and have it come back with your full proposal, and we find out that it doesn't really fit in the NOAA mission space. We can't provide too much confirmation up front. That's what the scientific review and technical review process is really intended to do. It's also to give us a heads up. We've had some real challenges with our review process and recruiting the right expertise at the right time. So it's really also for our process to help us find reviewers in advance. So I hear you about the 10, and that's really not the intent, but we did want to leave space for companies that do have multiple branches and want to submit more than one idea.
thanks. That makes more sense.
Yeah. We work with some companies. They still qualify as small businesses, but they're very heavily R&D, and they have a lot of different technologies that are going on. So that's probably makes sense. So Michael, I'm really curious about what you guys are thinking about. And again, nothing proprietary, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but and Joe there too, kind of some ideas in terms of you're thinking. Obviously, NOAA might be appropriate. Any questions or?
Is it a general SBIR requirement that the PI be greater than 50% of the company, or is that just a NOAA thing?
That's part of like the congressionally mandated language part of the program. The STTR program has a little bit more flexibility with where the PI, but SBIR, the whole point of it was so that this funding is going to small businesses, which requires the PI to be employed by the small business.
Right. Okay.
And it also, guys, you guys know I've worked with both U of M as well as MSU innovators, researchers, investigators. It's for the duration of the award. That you don't have to be, right now you don't even have to have a company set up. But when you apply, no one has to be that employee at that point. But if you're awarded at that time of award, you have to have that PI has to be greater than 51 or 50% employed by the small business.
Okay.
So we can work with you on some of those things, but it's an issue when you saw that connection with the university and the FTE issues. That's kind of a whole other conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're thinking about spinning something out, one of you is going to have to leave. So one of you is going to have to take the lead on that. So I think these are.
Sometimes people will have like a postdoc become the PI of a proposal, or there are all of the expertise does not need to be with the PI. So there are mechanisms. Constance, it looks like you have a question.
Yes, thank you. One of the questions I had for you is, I see that there's a 6-month timeline and a pretty tight budget scope. Can you help us understand how, my familiarity is with NSF, and with NSF, there's nothing you do that doesn't get extended by 6 months to a year. Even when it comes to the SBIR, that can be extended. How does NOAA handle that? And what sort of scopes are you looking for within that 6 month duration?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard to answer because we have such a broad technology space that we work with, everything from satellites to omics to data type projects. I think you should know better than I would know and this is the most important part, what is feasible and achievable within the 6 month period. We really and with that amount of money, that's the most important thing. And you're right, we don't have a ton of flexibility because our phase 2 is just open to that round's phase 1 awardees. If you have a no cost extension, you're actually going to miss the submission window for that phase 2, and then you won't be eligible. So it is important that you're keeping in mind the scope of the project and that you will be able to achieve that scope within 6 months. I know you can't control science. I am a scientist myself. I have a PhD in neuroscience. So there is, some flexibility in that because we're using a grant mechanism. We're not looking for specific deliverables, but keep the scope in mind and make sure what you're proposing is likely achievable in that 6 month period.
Thank you. That's really clarifying, because when I talk to NSF, the response is, well, you can always extend it by 6 months, and you having a different attitude helps me understand the culture of the application process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
And Connie, some of you guys know what a stickler I am for just a really clean, specific work plan, statement of work, whatever the agency term for their technical proposal is, because I'm also a stickler about making sure that as a small business, you guys aren't losing money, that your budget is really well defined, and those two go hand in hand. a really clean, specific scope. Again, building in appropriate, because this is science, right? I mean, this is the intent is that most of these are, there has to be, supposed to be some kind of unknownness, right, to doing a phase 1 SBIR, regardless of the agency. We're going to get some money to test this out, but have a really clear, specific statement of work, project work plan in place, and that's going to help you have a very clear, specific budget, so that as a small business, you're not losing money. I've had some people who, and I'll joke, call them old timers, who have said, "Oh, everybody loses money on a phase 1," and I call BS to that. From working in startups for years, there's no reason that you need to be losing money on a phase 1. You just have to have a very clear statement of work. And Genevieve, not to speak for NOAA or any of the other agencies, but it's they want you to be successful, and in order to be successful, do the right things as a small business. Set the appropriate budgets out, so that within the policy, you can go on to that phase 2, and similarly, really launch a successful product line. That's the end game here. Technology, it advances NOAA's research objectives. The links in there, and make sure you're reading those next gen, because even though that's not part of the SBIR notice of funding opportunity, it's a reference there, and it will help you tell the story as you're talking writing your proposal for NOAA, making sure that you're mapping, because they're your most next immediate audience. You want to sell them. They're your investors right now. You're pitching to them with your proposal. And so, just make sure that you have everything really clearly defined. It advances their objectives, as I mentioned there, but it also is that the end game really is that you guys are successful and you have something really important to bring to the market space that you can sell, and then start bringing in money instead of pushing out money all the time.
I had to write that down, Ann, because I think we're trying to move away from the thought of NOAA is your customer, but I think don't treat NOAA like your customer, treat NOAA like your investor with your proposal that you're developing. That's the approach that I want to see in a proposal and an application.
Yeah. And so what's important to NOAA, well, they publicize their research objectives, their research strategy, their strategic objectives. Every agency has one of those. So those are really good things to be reviewing, not just the topics, but in addition to the topics. So,
hi, this is Gaurav. I have a few questions.
Yeah, hi, Gaurav. Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, thank you for arranging this. I appreciate it. So we are an early stage startup, and we're planning to submit citizen science focused projects. So these proposals target different topic areas. And the detailed proposals would highlight the difference between these projects and how they fit together. But essentially, they have similar abstracts. So I was wondering if it would be acceptable at the letter of intent submission stage.
I'm sorry, what would be appropriate at the letter of intent stage?
So the proposals are citizen science focused projects, and they're somewhat related in the sense that some of the components are similar, but essentially they target different topic areas. And the detailed proposals would essentially show the distinction between the projects and how they actually fit together. But at the letter of intent stage, there might be some sort of overlap that may seem to be there. So I was wondering if that would be acceptable at this stage.
Yeah, I think you'll have to be careful, because there is language in the solicitation that each abstract does need to be distinct. So you'll have to find a way to make sure that it's clear that there, and you could even say what you just said, tell a little bit more about the bigger picture. But you do need to submit an individual letter of intent for every application you would intend to submit. So we have to be able to trace back that letter of the full application to the letter of intent that we received.
Okay.
Yeah, and Gaurav and Genevieve, certainly, because I'm just kind of service provider, just helping here, but one of the things that we talk about a lot, because in NOAA, I actually see it a lot with NOAA. People are like, well, gosh, NOAA and USDA, I think I've seen like, well, it kind of fits this topic and it fits this topic. And, I don't know what I should do. I'm like, pick the best one. One of them will stand out a little bit more strongly. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be glued to that. I mean, because the program managers and program directors can also say like, hey, I actually think this might be, I see that a lot with NIH. I think this actually might fit better over here versus, and under and NCI, might be better in general medicine, something like that. I think they'll do that a little bit as well. But I think it will also help you with your conversation, your clarity of your project scope. If you pick, select the topic that you feel is most in line with the end game of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think, Genevieve, you might say like, oh no, yeah, this other topic's better, but they probably will have the best intuition in terms of which one overlaps.
Yeah. And I mean, the real goal with the topics, at least for our agency, this might be different at other agencies. It's not because we are trying to, we have to fund a specific number of applications in each of these topic buckets. It's more to help us with categorizing it within NOAA. I know there's tons of similarities. Weather and climate are very closely related, obviously, and there are impacts on the ocean. There's weather in the ocean, so there's obviously a lot of overlap. But we're not trying or required or stuck in a box where we have to fund a certain amount in each subtopic. So it's not. You're not at a disadvantage for picking one over the other. It's more, like Anne said, to help you clarify the story and what problem you're trying to solve. And I think to help us categorize what you're working on so that we can evaluate and provide technical expertise for the effort as well. But you're not at a disadvantage for choosing one over the other. So definitely choose the one that makes the most sense up front. I also know that a lot of commercial efforts can have multiple customers or, downstream implementations. And I always say, like, choose the one from the beginning that has the largest commercial market or the most commercial potential, because that's going to be the easiest to sell. And then from there, you can always go in other directions, but to choose the path of least resistance, if you will.
Great advice. Yeah. Where's that low hanging fruit, or where is that biggest market? That's a great, because that's just going to, in the long run, that'll help you as a small business as well, because you'll get some traction. Maybe 5 years from now, from now where you're really getting lots of money, but if you can be getting into a position where you have annual recurring revenue or revenue coming in for the product that you've developed under SBIR as fast as possible, that's brilliant. That's a thing to focus on. That was
Right.
I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Thank you. I have a quick follow-up question. So for like a citizen science project, for the phase 1 development project, would letters of support be acceptable, or would, let's say, institutional letters of collaboration would be preferred?
We like to see both. We do require letters from your collaborators just to confirm that anyone you're saying that you're going to be working with is on board. But additional letters of support from potential customers or people talking about the need or those types of letters also can be helpful.
Okay, thank you. And let's say if our letters of intent are accepted, can we actually contact NOAA staff to discuss further so that the proposal is more aligned with NOAA's interests, or is this off the table?
Yeah, so because it's not a contract and it's a grant process, there are no restrictions or like blackout periods around the application date. So you are welcome at any part of the process to contact technical experts at NOAA.
Thank you so much.
Well, we have reached the top of the hour. Are there any other final questions real quick before we head off?
Can I squeeze one in?
Sure.
Yeah, Genevieve, you mentioned some of the NOAA labs, and I've worked with some folks at the one in Seattle. would it be useful for us talk or coordinate or sort of plug in to get their thoughts from that lab? Or are they pretty separate from the whole SBIR review
So-
and stuff?
Most of so they could be the technical experts as part of our review. I like to think of seeking the technical expertise at NOAA as part of your customer discovery process. It can certainly help inform the development of your technology. They are experts in that area and may be able to give you perspectives. They're not involved in selecting the topics or selecting what applications are going to be funded. So it's not going to give you an advantage in that respect, but definitely as part of, like I said, customer discovery process, it can be really valuable.
Very cool. Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, there's so many other things that we probably could have touched on, like technology transfer and cooperative agreements and all of these types of things. So again, I always recommend people just kind of look at what's going to be the best in the long run for your small business. I'm a total evangelist for the SBIR program, but keep in mind this is one source of funding for your company, and the end game is, what can you do to make sure that you have a really cool product that's people want to buy.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I am also an evangelist for the SBIR program. Obviously, that's my job, but the rest of our office is involved in technology transfer and does cooperative research and development agreements. And I'm sure their program manager, Ann, would also be happy to come in and talk about some of the other opportunities for working with NOAA.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. It's so great to have another Montana girl represent.
It's great to be one.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can I ask a quick question?
It's my adopted state, but yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And again, everyone, I did record this. If you need it, let me know. And I'm going to connect with a couple of people because I think there was some trouble getting on via Eventbrite. But thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
And feel free to follow up with email, and if you have any further questions. It was great talking with you all today.
Thanks, Genevieve.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.